The greatest musical instrument that there is actually alive. They are born and they live and they die.
My name is Lucia Lucas. I've been singing opera my entire adult life.
When you're on stage, you're inhabiting cisgendered male roles. And when you're off stage, you're a trans woman. How have you navigated that?
I always have to remember why I'm here. And I'm here to do this show. And here, on this stage.
No trans singers ever performed Don Giovanni anywhere in the world.
We're not doing anything traditional here.
If people don't come, if there's silent backlash, maybe I'll even have to resign.
Welcome to Queerguru, and congratulations on your film, The Sound of Identity, I was going to get it wrong, which is about to screen in OUTshine's virtual film festival next week. So, let's start with, without giving it all away, Mike, can you tell us what your film is about?
Of course. Well, that's really always the hardest part of telling people about the film, right? You don't want to give too much away so they still watch it. The Sound of Identity is a film about the first transgender opera singer to have a leading role on American main stage. And the thing that's really interesting about it is that it happens in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is one of the least likely places that most people would expect that story to occur in.
Lucia is a wonderful, charismatic figure and an amazing singer. How did you first meet her and come up with the idea of a documentary?
Well, it's interesting. I was actually approached by the producers. About 2 or 3 years ago, I was brought to Tulsa by an organization called Tulsa Tomorrow that flew in 50 young professionals from all over the country that work in very different industries to see the future of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And while I was there, I met Russ Kirkpatrick and Andy Kinslow, who produced the film, for literally 15 minutes. And 2 years later, they gave me a phone call and they said, hey, we have gotten the rights to do this film about Lucia Lucas. They told me her background. They said, you're one of a few directors we thought of that we've met over the past couple of years to direct this. Would you be interested? And being that I'd been to Tulsa and I was fascinated with the idea of voice and gender, it seemed something that was really appealing to me to tackle.
So with them, what came first, the project or actually her?
The project came first, and then once I said I was interested, they said, let's put you in touch with Lucia. And so I did a couple of Skype calls with her, and of course that kind of sealed the deal. Once I did a few calls with her, I said, okay, I think I know how to do this now. And so that really helped. Anytime that you are approached to direct something that you're not originating, whether it's meeting the actors or meeting the subjects, whoever it is, that usually tells you a lot about the film you're about to make. And so when I met Lucia on Skype, sort of like we're talking now, I said, this is going to be a good time, and there's a lot I can do with this. And so that was a big appeal for sure.
She's a very passionate person, so that made it easy for you, I have to say, because it's not difficult to make a passionate film a passionate person. But you always take a risk making a film like this because you have no idea how it's going to end. Was everybody convinced of the success of the project and hence the film?
No, I mean, that is obviously the huge risk in making a film like this. You don't know what the outcome's going to be. And so the best thing you can do as a director is really lay out a couple of different scenarios in your filming process, right? And so I had a couple of different stories I was following throughout the filming process. And every week, literally on a daily basis, I had phone calls with our executive producer, Josh Backoff, here in Los Angeles, and our producers there. And we were talking about, okay, if this happens, this is the direction the story's going to go. If this happens, this is the direction the story is going to go. But I always had in my mind a very clear outcome for the movie. In fact, without spoiling it, the way the film ends when you do see the film is precisely what I wanted to happen. And it was a major risk in hindsight. When you see the film, you'll know this. But it happened. And so sometimes it's very gratifying as a director when those things occur. I know this sounds very mysterious, but it's very rare that sometimes you make a film and everything you hope to get, you get. And we got that on The Sound of Identity.
No, I mean, you never gave it away. Yes. We may have sat there waiting for happy ending, but we never knew how happy or how sad it would be. What I really admired you about was that you never dealt with the logistics of her actual transitioning, which was wonderful. Why was that important to you?
That was one of the first decisions I made, actually, when the producers called me about doing the film, and they said, she's the first transgender opera singer to have a leading role. What would you like to do with it? And literally, I think that was one of the first words out of my mouth. I said, well, I don't care about her transition.
Yeah.
Not that I don't care about transitions, they're important, but I think when we talk about media and transgender people, that is almost always the only story we tell.
Yeah.
And I think that is a major disservice to transgender people, which are typically and still, even with better rights, a marginalized community. And the fact that we're only telling in media these transition stories, it otherizes people. It puts them in a box, like a Frankenstein kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that as a director and as a creative, it's our responsibility to tell different types of stories. And so for me, the most important thing, especially once I got to know Lucia, was to create a narrative that was a full-bodied person, that was a real, tangible human, not this put-together thing that we sometimes like to see in those films. And I just time to move past it.
You made the main focus of your film her voice. Was it something you both agreed on?
That was something that we definitely both found interesting. The reason that I was so intrigued with voice, and this was another appeal to coming on the project, was that construct of gender, that dichotomy between the voice that comes out of us and how people associate that. The best way I can describe it for people that aren't sure what that looks like or can't quite wrap it around their head is going to a fast food restaurant and a drive-through. Sometimes you'll order something, I want my burger, I want my fries, and sometimes they'll say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and they'll get it wrong based on the pitch of your voice. And that to me was a really interesting question to think about.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, is voice associated with gender, or does society associate gender with voice? And that was something that obviously lent itself when she transitioned, because she kept her baritone voice.
Yeah.
And obviously that was fascinating to watch how people interpreted that as we were filming. Some people were very comfortable, and some people were certainly not.
There's a fair bit of conversation that you film between the parties about whether to ignore her gender or to use it to help ticket sales. Do you think they ended up with the right balance in the end?
That to me also was one of the most interesting questions of the film. I think right now we are going through a very interesting time in our society where we're reckoning with identity and roles of identity. And it's not just in the transgender community. Obviously, it's with male, female, gay, straight, everybody's going through this. And I felt it was appropriate to ask the question, how do we use our identity to present ourselves in public? And I think this is something that's a very universal question right now, right? This idea that whatever society associates us with is how we choose to be packaged. So like as a gay director, should I only direct gay films? As a trans actor, should you only have trans roles? And if you use that identity, how we use it obviously is a measure of authenticity. And so in that balance, I think they got it right.
Okay.
But I think it was an interesting question for the audience to think about as they watch the film.
Yeah, no. What happens to the film next?
Well, right now we are in the middle of COVID, as you know. So it's been a really interesting year. It's been so frustrating to me because I've been so excited to share this film with people, but all of America's and the world's film festivals got canceled on us. So we've been sitting on the shelf. So right now we're going to be at OUTshine this weekend. We're going to be in the Macon Film Festival this weekend, where I screened my very first film as a student filmmaker in college. So it's really cool. Back with a special screening. And then we're going to be waiting a couple more festivals. Some they're uncanceling, so keep your fingers crossed. And then we'll be out with widespread distribution.
That's good. That's good news. No, actually,
so you can stay tuned for that. So everybody will get to see it. Yes, globally, not just in the US.
One of the advantages has been of the virtual film festivals is that they've been accessible around the globe. Not always. OUTshine's only in Florida, but
Right.
it has given you a wider audience, and it means you can be lazy and sit at home and sit.
One of the things I was going to say about OUTshine being virtual that's really great is that it used to be, or it still is, I guess, with most film festivals, you have to live in Miami or Fort Lauderdale to go to OUTshine, or you have to travel, which costs money. And so the thing that I love about this is if you are anywhere in the state of Florida, you can be in Orlando, Jacksonville, wherever, and you can watch it. And so I think that's a great opportunity to bring it to viewers that may not normally get to go to a film festival.
Can you ever see yourself making another movie with Lucia?
Oh, absolutely. If the opportunity presented itself. I've been really lucky in my career to make films and ads and documentaries with other people that happen over and over again. And so if the right opportunity presented itself, obviously Lucia is a phenomenal talent. I'd do it again in a heartbeat, sure.
We know there's a Met debut for her in the wings,
Yes.
postponed. But what does the future hold for you?
Well, I'm actually in the middle of editing a film that I've been directing for 4 years, another documentary called The American Question. It's a film about how American value systems are constructed and what happens when America doesn't share a shared value system. We filmed in swing states in Pennsylvania and Michigan, and with experts all over the country over the course of 4 years. So it's a really huge film as far as scope. So keep your fingers crossed for me that we're able to wrestle it down into something that's digestible.
Well said. Well, it's been great talking to you. I absolutely adored the film.
Thank you.
I'm very passionate woman, a great passionate film, and I hope it gets the audience it deserves.
I hope so too. And I'll tell you one last thing. It's the most personal film I've ever made, and that was something that I didn't expect walking into it. I think as a director, every project you make means something to you, and this one is certainly, for me, a very personal film. It feels like a film that encompasses a lot of things that I've thought about in my own career and in my own personal life, and so it's really great to share it with audiences, and especially to highlight such a phenomenal talent.
Yeah. Thank you for talking to us.
Thanks so much.
Opera has been dying for 400 years, basically, almost since it was born.
What is the biggest problem with opera right now? Having less and less audience. How do you fix that? You get new audience. I know for sure that there are LGBT people who are going to come to the opera, who have never come to an opera. Okay.
I'm gonna go to see you.
You should. It's my show. It's called Don Giovanni. If there wasn't the story of how it came out, then of course there would be less press.
Some people buy things for the package. That's marketing.
I hope I've not presented this as any kind of a freak show.
The bigger my star gets, the more pressure it is to deliver all the time. If we sold out, do you think that maybe it could be because you took a risk?
Well, I'll certainly take full credit for it, yes.